Hey guys, how's it going? This is Qazi, and I'm here to explain about a new concept in chess. If you are new to chess, especially if you haven't learned chess as a student of the game and you've just been playing chess games, this is going to be very important for you. And even for everybody else, I think this video will be very important in explaining a big secret about chess and a thing that is something that's vitally important and it's neglected by players who are even maybe 1400. Okay, so first of all, let me ask you a few questions. So let's say it's your turn and you're white and it's the first move of the game. How many total possibilities of moves do you have? So for example, pawn to a3 would be one possibility. Pawn up to a4 would be another possibility, and so on and so forth. So why don't you pause the video and tell me how many total possibilities do you have on your first move? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. We have 20 possibilities. And if you didn't get 20, you got 18 or something, I bet you probably missed it. You could also move the knight. So the knights can go to the edge of the board, h3 or f3, and this knight can go to a3 and c3. So that's 4 moves with the knight, and we have 16 moves with the pawns. So having 20 total moves in the start, well, which one do you choose to play? I mean, isn't this a great move? Isn't a4 a good move? I mean, is d4 any better than a4, really? So some of you who know this concept will be able to understand, like, okay, of course, one move is better than the other, and I'll explain concretely why that is the case. So in the start, the most important squares of a chessboard, and this is vitally important to understand for us, are these 4 squares right here. The square d4, the square d5, the square e4, and the square e5. These are the 4 most important squares of the chessboard. If you can control these, you can practically control the game. And I'll expand further on this as well in a later video. Okay, so let's take these off. So these are the 4 most important squares of a chessboard. Now, what are the opening moves that control them? Well, does a3 control one of the center squares? No. Why don't you pause the video and tell me, what square does the pawn on a3 control? Okay, if you said that this pawn controls the square a3, not really. This pawn does not control the square itself is on. If you said it controls the square a4, it can go to a4, but it cannot control a4. This pawn controls the square b5 because that's a square that it attacks. So, in the start, we always need to be controlling. In the opening of the chess game, we need to be controlling these 4 central squares with every single move that we play. So let's say we play b4. Does it control one of the central squares? No, it does not. It controls the square c5 and controls the square a5. But those squares are not the 4 central squares. Let's put this back. How about the move c4? c4. Does it control the central squares? And the answer is that yes, it actually does. It controls the square d5, and that's one of the 4 squares in the center. As long as we control even one, that's good enough. Now my question to you is, pawn d4. Is this move better than pawn c4? And don't tell me about, oh, this opens up the bishop or the other one opens up the queen. Just look at the move and tell me if one of the moves controls more of the center, and because of that, which one is better? Okay, so I'm actually going to say that none of those 2 moves are better. They're actually equal because the pawn on d4 controls only one central square, and that's e5 out of these 4 squares. And the pawn on c4 controls also one central square, which is d5. So I'm going to say that these 2 moves as opening moves, they're both equally good. Now let's look at the move e4. This move is also a great move because it controls one central square, so on and so forth. And f4 also controls one of the central squares. So I think you are beginning to get the idea. Pause the video. Here's the challenge question. Well, actually, hear the challenge question first, and then you can pause the video. What move controls 2 central squares in one turn? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that move would be knight f3 that controls two central squares, the square e5 and the square d4, and knight to c3, it controls the square e4 and d5. So those are one moves that control two squares simultaneously in one turn. So there you have it, folks. Every single move in the start of the game should be controlling one of the four central squares. So let me just show you a quick example chess game. That would be a very good way to play for beginners or even for players who are a little bit more advanced. So an example should look something like this. We have a pawn controlling d5. He has a pawn controlling d4. They're both controlling center squares. We bring out our knights. Knights are controlling central squares. Bishop is controlling a center square, d5. That's why I put it on c4 instead of d3, e2. Well, d3 will block this bishop. That's why I didn't put it there. But this bishop is controlling a central square on d5. Knight comes out. It's controlling central squares. And let's just say we castle. And we can stop right there. So this is an example of a good opening that follows good opening principles such as castling early, bringing your pieces in the center, and controlling some central squares. So I think with this, you should have a better idea of playing a game. So let's just cut this video right now. Thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, please comment, subscribe, and like it up. Thanks. Peace, guys.